Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third edition of Manna Song's reading launch. It is so wonderful to see you all. I am so excited for tonight. Give me a thumbs up if you are too. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So we're gonna jump right in. I feel like I have to say this that it's been a tough news day today, and it's really hard to show up for joy when we have tough days. But I am so grateful everybody did, and we're just gonna make this a joyous, joyous event. So thank you so much again for being here. So. I have prepared notes, so I'm going to read from them. Oh, I'm Diane Gottlieb, by the way. I edited the anthology. Um, and we're going to hear tonight seven gorgeous Jewish authors read excerpts from their glorious essays included in Manna Songs, Stories of Jewish Culture and Heritage, published by ELJ Editions. Yay! I had the great honor, privilege, and pleasure with a capital P to edit this magnificent anthology celebrating Jewish joy. Together, 32 magnificent authors, along with Erica Dreyfus, who wrote an incredibly powerful foreword, and I, have created more than a book. Mana Songs is also a community. Many involved have made new connections, strengthened previous ones, and I know this sounds so cheesy, but have participated in something that is greater than any one of us. To you, lovely contributors, to you, Erica Dreyfus, I say thank you from the bottom, middle, and top of my heart. And I will forever be grateful to Ariana D. Den Blaker, the founder and force behind ELJ Editions, for coming up with the idea of Mana Songs and providing us the opportunity for such a beautiful and inspiring chorus to be heard and read out in the world. So, yay. We're going to get started. Before I introduce the Oh, I wrote the same thing. Oh, same thing twice. Okay. I may have to do some more editing. But anyway, another thing I want to say to everybody, I have to thank the people who wrote us advanced praise. So everybody, it's just you have to read our blurbs too, not just the essays. You have to read the blurbs. Okay, great. Before I introduce our readers, I want to remind everyone listening, or actually tell you for the first time, that you're about to hear excerpts from the essays, not the whole thing. You will want to read these essays in their entirety. So please copy the link provided in the chat and pick up a copy of Mana Songs for yourself or several to give as gifts. I promise you won't be disappointed. So now to the readers. First up is Joan Legant. Joan Legant is the author of 3 award-winning books of fiction. Her latest, Displaced Persons, was a finalist for 2025 National Book Award, the Association of Jewish Libraries Fiction Award, and a Forward Indies Award. Formerly a lawyer for 5 years, Joan was the visiting writer at Bar Ilan University outside Tel Aviv, where she also lectured on American literature and culture under the auspices of the U.S. Embassy, and was a volunteer ESL teacher for African refugees and asylum seekers. She lives outside Boston with her family. For more about Joan's work, visit joanlegant.com. Joan, was there it's Displaced Persons. Was there something after that, like a subtitle?
Just stories.
Just stories. Okay. All
Short
right.
stories, right?
And it's Joan's book is fabulous. Okay. Joan's lovely essay is about a set of candlesticks and the generations of women who came before her.
Yeah.
Take it away, Joan.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. Here we go. It's called Inheritance. I was constantly misplacing the candlesticks. Every time I'd clean out the sideboard stuffed with things I never used but couldn't throw away, a hand-painted soup tureen my mother had insisted was rare French porcelain, a tea service salvaged from my in-laws' estate. I'd take out the two candlesticks, consider what to do with them, then put them somewhere a notch above the never to use and below the actually functional. They were bent to the point of alarming, a jagged edge at the midpoints where the parts had been poorly soldered together and where you could slice a finger if you weren't careful, and discolored, blackened at the edges and the base, which had always looked like a mismatch, another bad soldering job. But I held on to them because they belonged to my grandmother, and my grandmother was the one member of our family connected to Jewish ritual. An immigrant from Minsk who lived her American life in the Bronx, her six children in that now familiar American story, had abandoned Jewish practice as soon as possible, jettisoning not only the Friday night candlelighting, but the kosher food and the holidays, and eventually the Bronx itself. They fanned out to Long Island and Queens and upstate New York. The unmarried daughter moved to Manhattan. How I came to know that my grandmother was the keeper of the Jewish flame, I don't know. My parents left the Bronx in the great post-war migration to the suburbs when I was 5, and I have no memory of being in my grandmother's apartment over Shabbat before that. I also don't remember receiving the candlesticks. Most likely it was my mother who gave them to me, knowing, however unhappily, of my interest in Jewish ritual. This would have been when I was in my early 30s and newly returned from 3 years in Israel, some of it spent at a yeshiva. By then, my grandmother had been dead 10 years and nobody else would have wanted them. To my mother, my desire to take on Jewish observance was hurtful, even a betrayal. She believed it was a form of judgment, though I knew it was simple guilt. She'd abandoned it all to her mother's own thinly veiled disgust. And now here came this daughter, resurrecting all that hocus pocus and becoming my grandmother's proxy, as if to say, you didn't think you'd get away with it without feeling bad, did you? I cherished the candlesticks when I first received them and thought that surely they were valuable. I wondered if my grandmother had brought them with her on the boat from Russia, hidden in the folds of a coat. I conjured a line of pious matriarchs stretching back centuries, passing the items one to the other like in a touching story by Shalom Aleichem. I've since learned that they are an inexpensive brass set commonly sold on the Lower East Side to poor immigrants. Although I've had the candlesticks for 40 years, I've never used them. By the time my mother gave them to me, I had acquired a candelabra of green enamel with Shabbat Shalom in Hebrew on the base, one of my first purchases in Jerusalem after I'd taken on the observant lifestyle I would later let go of. I bought another pair 10 years into my marriage, a sleek silver set I polished each week to a high sheen with my young sons. Other sets have arrived over the years. Because there is no shortage of candlesticks in our house, I tell myself there's no need to line up my grandmother's black and broken pair alongside the others. They're not aesthetically pleasing, they wouldn't align with the rest, and they're hazardous. But that's not the truth. The truth is that my grandmother's candlesticks are a carrier of sadness, even pain. I cannot see them and my grandmother without seeing my mother. Did my grandmother love my mother? It's the wrong question. My grandmother did what women with limited emotional stores do with 6 children: feed, clothe, tend. Did my mother love me? Again, the wrong question. My mother did not like my inverse rebellion, taking it as a stab in the heart, just as my grandmother didn't like my mother's more explicit one, and I, flapping in the wind between the two of them, could safely land nowhere. I wish I could say that my grandmother's candlesticks were the treasured repository of my family's Jewishness, handed down from generation to generation. I wish I could assign them the sentimental value they would seem with their 100-year provenance to demand. I wish I could turn them into the heirlooms I envy in other people's living rooms, the sepia photographs, the pocket watch someone's father got for his bar mitzvah. But I can't. Alongside the beloved candelabra acquired during my years in Jerusalem and the silver columns I lovingly polished with my sons, these candlesticks, with their sadness and disappointment soldered on as clumsily as their bases, are also mine. And so I keep them somewhere. I can't always find them and seldom nowadays look for them, but I know they aren't gone.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Joan. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Next up is Amy Rogers. Amy Rogers is a journalist who spent 15 years writing about food and culture for NPR station WFAE Charlotte, North Carolina, and many other publications. Her books include Hungry for Home, stories of food from across the Carolinas. As an editor and workshop presenter, she has helped hundreds of people hone their skills and find satisfaction in their writing. Rogers is currently at work on a reported memoir about people facing and solving problems of hunger and housing injustice. Visit her at amyrogers.net. Amy writes about a very special Hanukkah and a feast of 7 fishes with her family.
Thanks for the lovely introduction, Diane. And thank you to ELJ and all of my fellow contributors for being part of this tremendous project. And also thank you to my family, folks who are here, my sister and brother, my cousins Diana and Sherry, my Aunt Lynn. You will see some of these people in the story I'm about to read to you. It's called Christmas Dinner Miami Style, or A Hanukkah Fishtail. If it's Christmas and you're Jewish, that usually means one thing: Chinese food for dinner. And that's exactly what my siblings and I had planned to do. My sister Julie and I would get sesame chicken takeout in Tallahassee. Our brother Adam would get spicy beef or something like it delivered to his condo in Miami. We do some version of this every year separately in our two cities. Like lots of families we visit infrequently, we mean to do better, but time has a way of rushing by. Our cities are 500 miles apart, and that's a dicey drive across the Sunshine State, even when it's not the height of holiday travel. So never ever do we get together at Christmas. But last year was different. Our Aunt Lynn was widowed when our beloved family patriarch, Uncle Bill, passed away. My sister's partner, Elgin, had died as well. My brother, a heart transplant recipient, had not been feeling great. And suddenly I realized it had been almost a year since we sisters had seen our youngest sibling. Now, roughly 3 times in about 100 years, the first night of Hanukkah falls on Christmas, and that happened in 2024. So I suggested to Julie, if we took turns driving and brought lots of snacks, it wouldn't be so terrible. And she agreed. We can listen to podcasts along the way. I pictured us sitting down to a real holiday meal with Lynn's succulent brisket or mustard glazed lamb and creamy potatoes. We'd celebrate together as a family instead of noshing on takeout in separate cities. As if zigzagging 1,000 miles across Florida at Christmas time isn't nutty enough, I had also unintentionally set in motion a raft of culinary complications. I had seen a funny post in a Facebook group called We Love Jewish Food. A comedian named Les Deegan wrote, "Being that Hanukkah falls on the same day as Christmas this year, my family will be celebrating the Feast of 7 Fishes with whitefish, gefilte fish, kippered salmon, pickled herring, sable, sturgeon, and lox." Now, unless you're Italian or you live in a city with a lot of people who are, you might not know about that tradition of a lavish Christmas meal with 7 kinds of fish. Many of these, lobster, clams, and other shellfish, are treif. Observant Jews don't eat them. I texted the post to my siblings on December 19th. They laughed. But I could never have expected what happened next. Just a couple of days before the trip, my brother called. He said, "They don't have sable at Costco. Lynn has the sturgeon, lox, whitefish salad, and seafood salad." I said, "What? Wait, what?" "I need to get the sable from the deli," he explained. I was incredulous. "You're actually doing it?" "Of course," he replied, as if there'd never been any doubt. My aunt and my brother had taken the offhand joke I sent and made it into the actual memory for our dinner on Christmas, the first night of Hanukkah. I burst out laughing. And then a few moments later, I noticed that my eyes were watering and I had a little lump in my throat. Now, many Jews will say Hanukkah is not a major holiday. It's not commanded that we observe it. In the US, it's morphed into an awkward Christmas adjacent amalgam of remembrance and gift giving. But as a child, I always loved the Hanukkah story. I could picture the scrappy Maccabees, a ragtag band of soldiers, rushing in to reclaim the temple that invaders had defiled. I envisioned those Maccabees discovering that precious vessel of oil to light their way, the slightest amount miraculously lasting the entire 8 days it took to clean and rededicate the temple. And yes, I loved the presents. What child wouldn't? And so Julie and I made our way to Miami on Christmas Eve. My contribution to the dinner would be homemade gelt I made by pouring melted chocolate into little candy molds of Hanukkah coins. But as delighted as I was, the kvetch in me had noticed a small but looming problem with my plan. We had just 5 fish dishes represented in a feast that's supposed to have 7. Only the pettiest of people would mention such a thing, but still, I didn't want to fall short on a challenge I myself had issued, so I had sneakily planned a workaround. At sundown on December 25th, we said the Baruch and lit the candle for the first night of Hanukkah. Lind served the platters of luscious fish and her delicious crispy latkes. From a tote bag I'd packed back home, I pulled out 2 small tins and placed them on the buffet, one of sardines and one of smoked oysters, and that made 7 fishes total. No one can say the Rogers family failed to understand the assignment. And although the oysters aren't allowed for us Jews, in this instance, they did their job simply by showing up. And whether we're counting 8 nights of light, 7 fishes to feast upon, or 2 sisters and a brother who finally made time for each other, it was the most memorable family meal that we'd shared in years. Now, about Passover coming up, let's discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I don't know if you were able to see everybody's face while you were reading at all, but lots and lots of smiles. Lots and lots of smiles. Thank you. Okay, next up is Anna Miriam Leblin. Anna Miriam Leblin is a small business owner, performer, author, and songwriter. Her essay, Are Those Real?, was published in the LGBTQ anthology One Teacher in 10. Creating groups that facilitate creating community brings her great joy. She runs several writing groups and a book club. Her novel in progress focuses on the dramatic survival of her grandparents and father during the Holocaust and their lives before and after the war. She also plans to tell these stories as a performer. The fragility of her family's survival leaves her incredibly grateful to be alive. Anna's essay celebrates a joyous wedding reception and the gratitude she holds for her family's survival.
Thank you, Diane. I already feel verklempt. First, I want to say, Diane, you are such an extraordinary human being, and it's been such an honor to work with you. It's the first time I've had an essay edited, and you taught me so much about the craft of writing. I want to thank ELJ Editions and everybody who came, Mom, David, Jennifer, Laura, and everybody who attended today. Jewish joy stuffed in my suitcase. I was traveling from California to Copenhagen with my fiance Katrina to have our big, fat Danish Jewish wedding. The day before, I had spun in confusion, having no idea what to pack. I stuffed my luggage with silver high heels, scuffed black waterproof boots, t-shirts, a purple raincoat, a red puffy windbreaker, jeans, jogging pants, and too much makeup. But there was zero confusion about bringing my most treasured carry-on. My resilient Jewish ancestors who would join me on this exhausting and exhilarating 20-hour flight. Would the Jewish spirit be accepted in the little land with only 3,000 Jews? Most Danes had never met a Jew. Denmark was a place with soft candles, cozy and hygge, and church weddings that repeated the same rituals, the same Christian rituals. I have always been a loud and proud Jew, but I was about to have my first spirited, wild, public Jewish celebration. I was breaking their rules. With adrenaline coursing through my body, we made it to the San Francisco International Airport. The luggage conveyor whirred as I dropped my suitcase onto the belt. I held on to my purple carry-on backpack in which I'd shoved my uncertainty, hidden amongst a journal and a bag of salty almonds. At security, the stern guard beeped the silver wand over my body. Stay calm, I told myself. The terminal was a dizzying sea of humanity. The sweet, sugary scents of cinnamon rolls and donuts wafting in the air. I pulled my journal out of my backpack and we wrote our wedding vows. My vow number 1, I promise never to leave the apartment without red lipstick. Katrina's vow number 1, she promised never to make me leave the apartment without red lipstick. We laughed hysterically like giddy adolescents. As a lonely teenager, I would lie in bed eating Snickers bars and dream about getting married in a green dress. Chewing on the salty peanuts and sweet milk chocolate, I pictured us kissing under a protective chuppah. After I smashed the glass with my spiked heels, guests would cheer Mazel Tov. My grandparents would be verklempt. I could not have imagined this crazy blend of ancient Jewish and Viking traditions. Now, this new dream was taking flight. At the gate, a tall blonde Scandinavian announced, Zone 3, boarding now. And sweat slicked my palms. It all felt like a miracle. My very existence came about from tiny choices and pure luck. One slip, and I would not have been born. In 1943 Poland, my family lived in the Lodz ghetto as Hitler was closing in. Grandpa went through hell at Buchenwald, but he escaped from a death march. The Nazis mercilessly ripped my 7-year-old dad away from his parents. But Grandma Dora, sick to her bones, lied to the Germans about my dad's age, telling them he was older than he was. Because of her razor's edge choice, Dad ended up under Luba, the angel of Bergen-Belson's care. Luba flirted with the Nazis, so she was able to procure more food for her charges than most children in the camps would ever receive. Grandma was enslaved in Bergen-Belsen and did not know if my dad was alive. All 3 barely survived. When liberation came in 1945, they were reunited. Their starved bodies could finally touch each other again. Indomitable survival genes were lodged deep inside of me. Grandpa Michal passed away at the age of 85. Grandma was still a force of nature at 94, but my booby was too exhausted to travel the 5,000 miles to our wedding. So Mom, Dad, and my big brother made up the tiny crew of Jewish family members flying in to celebrate. Katrina's story was the opposite of mine. She was born in Denmark, and with the adventurousness of a Viking, she left her safe country at 18. Warm, sun-drenched California beckoned. Her huge clan stayed in their freezing nation. She had hundreds of relatives who were about to witness their first Jewish wedding. Excitement and curiosity bubbled through my in-laws. Katrina's mother grabbed us at the Copenhagen airport. After one night of rest, we drove over to the spacious white building in the middle of Copenhagen. Finally, our big day had arrived. The clock struck 1, leaving us 2 hours to get ready. I floated over my body in a disassociated haze and watched myself slip on sheer stockings, pull on my sparkly green dress with just enough cleavage to feel sexy. I dipped into red lipstick, rouge, and eyeshadow and painted my face. Silver, glittery high heels matched my silver, glittery shawl. I transformed into the glowing fairy bride I'd wanted to be since I was young. Draped in wedding garb, I was transported from the mundane to the magical. Grandma and Grandpa, I whispered, please come with me.
Beautiful, Anna. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful.
Leave yours on. That's what I'm gonna, oh shoot. I'm trying to put it in the chat. I can't do it.
I'm trying to mute who's. There we go. Okay. Next up is Sevilla Gover. Sevilla Gover is a poet and author whose most recent book, Dreaming on the Page, Tap into Your Midnight Mind to Supercharge Your Writing, is an IBPA Gold winner. Her poetry has been published in dozens of journals and anthologies, including the Mom Egg Review, the Other Journal, Pensive, and Lilith magazine. She has received numerous awards for her writing and a Pushcart nomination. She shares her poems and poetic translations about the first Hebrew matriarch, Sarah, in an online publication, The Life of H, Sarah Reimagined. Sevilla teaches, writes, and dreams in Western Massachusetts. Learn more at thirdhousemoon.com. Sevilla's essay speaks to her special relationship with a complicated parsha in the Torah.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be here. I want to say that I've been published in a lot of anthologies, dozens and dozens of anthologies, or at least dozens. And this has really been my favorite experience. Diana makes a community out of pages in a book. It's amazing. And I'm really honored to have this experience. And briefly, I just want to say that my poetic essay is not only about a complicated relationship to a parsha, but it involves a really hard story about losing custody of my daughter in a same-sex custody battle many years ago. But this whole process of publishing with ELJ editions has been filled with synchronicities, one of which is that today, when I'm reading, is my daughter's, the subject of this essay's 37th birthday. So I'm dedicating my reading to my miracle girl who has grown up despite such really difficult odds into a magnificent young woman. So this is called My Akida. And I'll just read an excerpt from it because it's a bit lengthy. I whispered my daughter awake before dawn. Her hair was a wispy cloud, storm-tasseled by dreams. She lifted her eyes and interrogated the charcoal sky that blotted the window black. Why are we waking up in the dark? She asked. I don't remember exactly what I told her, except that it was a lie. Just as what Abraham told Isaac when the boy asked about the lamb for the sacrifice was a lie too. I helped her wash and dress. Then we shambled into the car and to an all-night diner where we smothered our pancakes in watery maple syrup. She wanted to know why we were eating breakfast out instead of filling bowls with cereal and milk at home. What fairy tale version of the grim truth could I feed her? A nightmare phone call, my ex, my daughter's other mother, saying she was getting in the car, was on her way, detailing the harm she'd do to me, to our house. Then a call from the local sheriff accusing me of kidnapping my own child. I did the math. She'd be arriving at our empty house just about now, as dawn was spilling its yolk orange sunshine over the diner's asphalt parking lot. After breakfast, I said goodbye to my daughter at the door of a friend's home. Then I drove to court, not knowing that I would come back down my mountain alone. When the midwife guided her from my partner's body, our daughter's eyes opened wide in the fluorescent lit wonder she'd been born into. She was always eager and expectant like that, grabbed fistfuls of bread well before we were advised to feed her solid foods, was so insistent that we relented with offerings of pizza and bits of bagels she'd gum away at. She was talking before she knew any words. We scribed a lexicon of her expressive babbles, named each one baby eating elephant, goat tangled in hose. Her chin was perpetually tipped upward and her mouth opened wide with peals of delight. She loved being lifted toward the sky and being pushed into dizzying arcs on the swing. The watchword of her faith was more, more, higher, higher. My partner filled canvases with bright distortions, tested the limits of truth, expressed her emotions in sudden and dramatic outbursts. I convinced myself that her eccentricities were signs of an artistic temperament and that our love could calm her careening swings between effusive generosity and ferocious silence. I underestimated the hellfire of the gods of bipolar and borderline. I didn't know the prayers to repeat in the temples of diagnosis. Didn't know that our first embrace was a covenant and that though we could not keep it, it would keep its grip on us. We blamed, we stormed, we held on, we maintained, we managed, we separated, we shared custody in the beginning. Then when our daughter was 4, my ex moved with her out of state. This attempt at a geographic cure was no remedy. Her mind was desert and prophet, was wilderness to be crossed with sirens blaring and blue lights flashing, dwelled in emergency rooms in the country of bandaged wrists. She in treatment, me with my daughter for a few weeks, a few months, until you are healthy again, I told my ex. And when she said, yes, I'm ready, I said no, she was not. In this beginning, gay marriage was a rainbow misted dream, and children were being taken from their lesbian parents as a matter of course. The judge gavelled my motherhood away, declared me a biological stranger to my child, forbade contact between us, not in person, not by phone, not by mail, not at all. As they climbed Mount Moriah, Abraham and Isaac were accompanied by servants, but for the final leg of their 3-day journey, they walked alone. For years, I climbed my mountain of anger and grief. I was loved by a new partner, my family and friends, but I was also alone, a daughterless mother. A ram caught in a thicket, and the voice of an angel spared Abraham his murderous burden. I can't imagine, friends and not friends told me, I wouldn't be able to bear it, they said. I bore what I had to bear. Until nearly 5 years had passed, and I rose in the pitch dark belly of a late winter night in that hourless hour when the face of the clock is washed clean. Inexplicably, the tumult in my head lifted and I melted into a bright peace. Half dreaming, I descended the stairs from my bedroom, barefoot and robed like a ghost or a goddess. I stood in the living room. Hineni, I said, I am here. And I will leave it there. I hope you will all purchase Manna Songs to read so many wonderful essays and the end of mine. Thank you for listening.
That was so beautiful, Savia. And I can't think of a better um inspiration to buy the book, to read the end of that essay. And happy birthday to your beautiful daughter. Yay. Thank you. Okay, Ellen Levitt. Ellen Levitt is a veteran teacher, writer, and photographer. She is the author of the trilogy on the Lost Synagogues of New York City books, at avotenu.com, and Walking Manhattan, wildernesspress.com. She has written hundreds of articles and essays as well. See her continued documentation of former synagogues work on Facebook. She and her husband have two wonderful daughters.
It didn't come, the actual web page didn't come out. So here it is. Former, oh, let's see.
You know what? Why don't you put the link to it in the chat when you're done?
Oh, that's going to be fun. Former
Okay.
synagogues, trust me.
It's like glaring, we
Yeah.
can't really see it. Okay, if you can find it. But before you start, I just want to say in her essay, Ellen shares her obsession with old synagogues and what they represent to her.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being on the call. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for the publisher. This is such a great op, you know. So now we're going to hear about the old shul. So we Jews have so many types of traditions and means of honoring our connections. These come in a variety of forms, from praying to cooking and baking, music and arts, from lighting candles to reciting blessings to dancing and humor and more. We revisit old customs and create new ones. There are many common and comforting traditions with which we engage, especially when it comes to holidays and life's milestones. But we also have our individual shtick, to put it frankly. Most Jewish folks I know do have their particular traditions upon which they put their individualistic stamp. Some have been handed down from generation to generation, and others may only last for the duration of one person's lifetime. I have a certain way of honoring tradition and cultivating connection to the past. It's by documenting lost synagogues. I am fascinated by, really obsessed with, former synagogues and other Jewish institutional buildings. I have been visiting, photographing, and researching these sites since 1999, when on my birthday, I took off from work that day. I drove around the neighborhood of my earliest years, spent in Flatbush, Brooklyn, to shoot black and white photographs of the area. During this photo session, I came upon two former synagogues. One was my first shul, and the other was my mom's childhood shul. Both had since been turned into churches. Since that fateful day in April 1999, I have visited a few hundred such sites throughout New York City and a few hundred more within New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. I've scoured cities such as Chicago, Detroit, Seattle, Cleveland, Baltimore, and elsewhere in search of one-time synagogues. They vary in size and condition. Some retain a great deal of Judaica while others have barely any. Some are gorgeous while others are utilitarian or even dumpy. A large percentage of them are now churches, but others are used as schools, private homes, medical facilities, art galleries, and so on. A handful I've come across were also abandoned. I have revisited many throughout New York City on more than one occasion to see how they fared, noting changes and stability, and partly because I feel connection to them. Their presence means a lot to me. While documenting them, I have written 3 books, with another in the works, and several articles. I have maintained 2 Facebook pages, although one was the original one was subjected to an anti-Semitic hack. It's in the ether. I have created exhibitions based upon the photographs I'd taken. The synagogue I have revisited most frequently, and I did yesterday too, I drove by, is that very first one, which was the second home and the only remaining one standing, of Sha'arei Torah. I went to Shari Torah with my family until I was not quite 7 years old, and I have definite memories of the place. I would go to prayer services with my dad and imitate whatever the other congregants did. I remember the red carpet in the main sanctuary. I had such fun when I was 5 or 6 on Simchat Torah, dressed up fancy, grasping a paper flag, and dancing around on the street in front of the synagogue. Okay, let's see. Shari Torah closed in the late 1970s, and members merged into 2 other Brooklyn synagogues. I attend one of those. It's called Flatbush Jewish Center. And one of our senior congregants, Mike, he came over from Shari Torah, so sometimes we reminisce about the place. Um, so I cannot go back in time and bring back that old building, which is now a church, but I do revisit Shari. Oh, just quickly, there was another version of it, and it was demolished. And my parents would not tell me that that was the original version of the synagogue. They would just call it the haunted house. I think they were embarrassed that it was, and then it got knocked down, and they built a school there. Well, I cannot go back in time and bring back that old building of Shari Torah, but I do revisit the Shari Torah I knew. Albemarle Road and East 21st Street. Pondering my childhood memories and admiring the unusual decorative elements of the building, from the Ludwig Wolpert designed sculpture sign. Yeah, he was a great artist. To the menorahs on the banisters. By paying homage to Shari Torah in person, I give credit to the place for being the catalyst of my lost synagogue's exploration and part-time career or careers in writing, photography, and leading tours. By the way, my father would call it Shara Torah with a real good thick Brooklyn accent. Shari Torah is now Salem Missionary Baptist Church. I realize some people are saddened by that fact. Some people are uncomfortable with my work, and they think of it as showing the failures of Jewish people to hold on to their old shuls. But I see it differently. The vast majority of these old shuls, including Shari Torah, were vacated voluntarily. And if with remorse and regrets, but it's better to remember these synagogues and document what remains than to ignore their presence. To me, visiting Shari Torah is a semi-regular ritual that connects me in various manners to my past as well as my present. I wouldn't say it's a happy ritual, but it isn't mournful. Stopping by is a mix of nostalgia and jogging my memory, honoring the place that inspired my scholarly work, but also something I cannot quite explain. I feel drawn to the synagogue. Shari Torah is important to me in clear ways as well as for elusive reasons. And that, to some extent, is how I view Judaism. It's very familiar, yet at times difficult to explain. And that's fine. You don't have to be able to reason with everything. There's power and beauty in mystery.
Thank you so much, Ellen. And I just have to say, the synagogues aren't lost with you on the trail. So thank you for that. You're keeping them alive for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, Gabrielle Ariella Kaplan-Mayer. Gabrielle Ariella Kaplan-Mayer is a spiritual director, author, and educator focused on finding holiness in creativity, dreams, and intuition. Her personal essays have been featured in Shondaland, NBC Think, Lilith, Why, and many other publications. She's the author of 6 nonfiction books and several collections of plays for children. Gabrielle is currently working on a memoir about the power of intuition and ongoing conversations with her ancestors. She serves as Ritual Wells Director of Virtual Content and Programs. Reach her at GabrielleKaplanMayer.com. And Gabrielle's going to share a mystical moment in her childhood synagogue sanctuary.
Well, Diane, I'm so grateful to you, and the love and creativity and joy here is palpable. Thank you to ELJ and to all my fellow co-authors. I'm going to ask all of you to go on a flight of imagination with me, because I'm going to transform from the 54-year-old woman you see sitting in front of you to 12-year-old me, This essay is first person present tense, and because it's an excerpt, I've already entered the synagogue, opened my trapper keeper, gotten out my Torah portion, and we're going to go right to the sanctuary. Here we go. Rabbi Stein walks up to the bima. He takes the Torah scroll from the ark. We're going to undress the Torah very carefully, he says. You take the rimanim off, lay them on the table. We work together in a nice rhythm. First, I remove the silver crowns, then the breastplate, so awkward, and last, the pointer. Rabbi Stein sits back in one of the bima chairs where you get to sit if you're a reader. He cradles the Torah while I remove its purple velvet cover. Okay, kiddo, he says, here we go. Showtime. You know your stuff. Go ahead. Don't worry if you stumble. We'll practice it a few times. We? He means me. It's me who's going to be standing up here in a few days in front of my out-of-town family and family friends and the friends I invited from school and all the old ladies who serve tea at Friday night onegs and yell at my best friend Joellen and me for stealing all of the lemons and dipping them into the sugar. Girls, who do you think slices those lemons? Mrs. Kramer asks, her eyes peering down over her glasses like daggers. Why did I invite anyone from school? Barbara, the temple secretary, appears before us, interrupting my thoughts. Rabbi, you're needed on an urgent call. The look on her face says it all. Everyone knows Barbara runs this place. Keep reading, Gab, Rabbi Stein calls, hurrying out the sanctuary side door. Read it a few times. I'll be right back. I pick up the yad and look for my first letter, Vav. Once I see it, it seems to sort of skip around. I imagine it dancing and teasing me a little. I chase one letter and then another, and my nerves melt away. I know my portion. This is not a big deal. The afternoon sunlight streams in through tall windows made of purple, blue, red, and yellow stained glass. I love to stare at the windows during services, but today the windows look different, like light is coming in through them, but in a more intense way. I start to read out loud from the top. The letters jump out of the scroll, landing in my voice. My voice calls out the ancient Hebrew words to the empty sanctuary. The yad in my hand feels electric. Is it supposed to feel that way? I make it to the end of my portion, stumbling only a couple of times. I pause for a second to take a breath and glance up from the scroll. The light seems to be hanging in the air now. It is dense and present, like it has its own life. I stay quiet with the light, feeling it. Maybe I am actually not alone. Maybe the light is God. I have no idea how long Rabbi Stein has been gone or how long I've been standing here. It could be a minute. I could be a day. I start over and read again, but this time I read to the light. I look up from time to time and the light is still there. The light seems happy, as if it really likes hearing me read from the Torah. I don't make any mistakes. Do you want to hear it again? I ask, having no idea who I'm speaking to. I start again, and the sanctuary feels full. It feels like love. It feels like everything will be okay. Rabbi Stein comes rushing back in. He's all sweaty. I'm sorry to leave you like that, Gab. Go ahead, read again so I can make sure your voice carries. I begin to read in a loud voice. The light through the window shifts. It gets dark. It's back to just Rabbi Stein and me here in the sanctuary again. And I'll leave it there, like all of us, so you'll buy the book and For those of you who haven't, read it and enjoy the rest of the essay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, is the light God? I love that. I think it was. I'm just weighing in here.
For
Thank,
sure.
thank you for that. It's beautiful. And now, Jennifer Fliss. Jennifer Fliss, she, her, is the writer of the story collection As If She Had a Say, 2023, and The Predatory Animal Ball, 2021. Her writing has appeared in Friction, The Rumpus, The Washington Post, and elsewhere. She can be found via her website, jenniferflisscreative.com. Jen's essay is not only closes out tonight's reading, but closes out the anthology, a tribute to trees and Judaism and to the miracles they both contain.
Thank you. These are really hard stories and essays to follow. But I'll try. It's called The Understory. What is a tree to a Jew? We plant trees in a land where many of us have never been. The bushy tree of life is evident in more than one synagogue stained glass window. We have an entire holiday, Tu B'Shvat, celebrating trees. Baal Deshit, while it now also applies to other things, began as an order against the destruction of trees and as a guiding principle of Jewish ethics. Is there a more fitting place for humans to atone on Yom Kippur than in a grove of redwoods? Where right now in the Presidio, the city is planting new trees in an attempt at reforestation. Is there a more apt metaphor for Jews in this world, cut down by the masses and steadily, slowly trying to rebuild ourselves, our community? For the oxygen, for the protection, for the network of roots and breath connecting us all. My 10-year-old daughter and I are in San Francisco visiting R, a friend whom I've known for nearly 20 years. A lifetime, someone's lifetime. We met in Israel during the emotional vortex of a birthright trip. This year, on this holy day, we find ourselves in the Presidio in a copse of redwood trees. The local synagogue has planned a meditation service for the contemplative holiday in the protective embrace of nature. Under the tree canopy, we sit on the blanket of one of R's friends. There are surprisingly 7 of us spread on M's blankets, sharing the space, tucked in tightly beside each other. I can't really see the rabbi or the team running the service, as there's a redwood directly in front of me. But my view isn't entirely obstructed. The tree has split into 2, and in the V I see the occasional flip of a tallit, or an arm strumming a guitar. Otherwise, my view is the striated, worn bark of a massive redwood. My daughter rests her head on my thigh. I run my fingers through her hair. Beside her is R, who occasionally reaches over to touch my arm, smile in that way she smiles, lets me know how special it is that I'm there, that we are there, that we are all there sharing this communal, ethereal, arboreal experience together. We Jews here are the understory. Redwoods have a dense root system that spreads far and wide, tangling with that of other redwoods for added stability. These trees also have high tannin levels. That means that no resin or pitch spills from its bark, and they're relatively immune to fungi, insects, and other tree diseases. Miraculously, they're also quite resistant to fire, of which there have been plenty plaguing forests throughout the American West. These trees, they just keep on surviving. Redwoods aren't completely indestructible, though. The logging industry, also simply known as humans, decimated forests throughout the country. Attempts at reforestation have met mixed results. But in addition to the saplings in this urban forest and others, there are still ancient trees, forests left to grow, flourish. People travel on vacations to take photos with the largest of them, trying to stretch their arms around the width, unable to do so. One cannot hold it all in one hand, or one armful. They're boundless. It is Fleet Week in San Francisco. There are fighter jet demonstrations all weekend. Above the far, far away treetops, I glimpse a jet, careening its way through the sky, deafening, sonic. The rabbi laughs when he's interrupted by the noise while sharing a poem. Miles and miles away, we all know, but do not say, that there are others living under thundering jets, the threat of war. Our jets here are for fun, for demonstration, to see what we are capable of in the resounding drawl of American bravado. Here in California, children point and laugh and smile and try to find the highest of hills to witness the military display. I do not know these Jews. I know these Jews. I do not know these trees. I know these trees. The brittle debris of the trees, rust-colored shades of brown get caught in the fibers of the blanket. And while I hum along to the dulcet, familiar melodies of an ancient language, I rub them between my fingers. The leaves turn into a kind of dirt. It too is an ancient language, the leaves growing and engaging with the sunlight, and then falling to meet those that went before them to turn to dust to again feed the next generation. In all our communities, small rural ones, bustling urban ones, and in far-flung locales, Jews continually refire themselves where they land. When the service is over, those who know each other hug, shake hands, pat backs. I help M fold his blanket. It is white and soft, more suited for a pristine linen sofa, not for the dirt, the ground. And yet, he has shared this white blanket with friends and strangers, so they would be more comfortable. We pull debris from its fibers and brush off the leaves as best we can. Em and I laugh about it not being ideal, and he says something about comfort not always being comfortable, and I will think about the depths of that comment for months. Our hands meet as we fold the blanket and bring its edges together. It feels like a sacred, ritualistic act. I thank him, and my daughter R and I leave the copse and walk into the sunlight of a limitless California sky. We then meet up with our son. To our delight, my daughter and he get on remarkably well and easily. They laugh and share the same frames of references, many around Greek mythology. They ruminate over Lego creations and create several inside jokes in just a few days. They're connected by more, it seems. Something intangible and visible. Their antics go on all weekend. My friend and I meet each other's eyes, silently saying, "Will you look at this incredible connection? These Jewish children will go forward when we are no longer able to, when we spiral down from the tree of life to meet on the forest floor." Collective nouns always fascinate me. How a single thing is just the thing, but when there are several, they become something else, something larger, stronger. A group of fighter jets is called a squadron. A group of trees is called a forest. A group of Jews is called a miracle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. So beautiful. Thank you. And what a lovely note to end this reading. Thank you all for being here. It really means the world, and I just sending you all lots and lots of love. And if you don't have a copy of the book yet, or if you know people who would love it and who wouldn't love it, the link is in the chat. So thank you again. Go off into this world and bring joy.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
See you all next time.
Thanks, everybody.